Pregame.com.
Tigers at Indians. Who do you like and why?
I like the Indians in this spot. The Tigers right now are the hottest team in baseball, and not only did they sweep the White Sox to get in the first place in their division, but they made two big moves with Florida Marlins, picking up Anibal Sanchez, a pitcher, and Omar Infante. So here's a team that...
All right, so let's talk about this.
Go ahead.
When you have a trade this time of year, it seems like there's two responses that a team can have. One is we've got a better player. We've upgraded on the field, so that's a net positive in theory.
Right.
But number two is the psychology that the front office believes, the coaches or the manager believes, and that seems to have an effect too. When you look at a trade like this, especially the first couple games after, how do you balance those factors?
I think it's good for a team like Detroit because remember, here's a team that came in so hyped before the season started and did absolutely nothing. And everyone was down on them, saying, you know, they're overrated, because when they got Fielder in the offseason, they were supposed to win it all, hands down, and that division was supposed to be easy. They were supposed to run away with it. They found themselves a couple games out of first place going into the All-Star break. Now, all of a sudden, they turned it on, like I said. Now, with the deadline 2 weeks away, you pick up two guys. I think that's a positive for Detroit, but the reason I like Cleveland is the value. We're going to get a home dog in this spot. I made the line on Detroit about minus 135. And I think the true line is more like minus 105 either way.
Okay. All right. So you're saying that both because of the emotional side of it and the on-the-field side of it, that it's a net positive short term for the Tigers and probably long term.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, in football and basketball, we talk about integration. Remember with LeBron and Dwayne Wade in basketball, it was like, oh, the first half of the season doesn't really even count because they're getting used to playing with each other.
Chemistry, sure.
How do you rate chemistry and integration when it comes to baseball? It seems like there's less of it.
Right, but I think it's bigger for the pitcher. I think for fielders, pretty much, you turn a double play the same way. You know, these kids have been doing it since grade school. I think for pitchers, because you get used to pitching to the same catcher. And we know the catcher calls the game for you.
Interesting. So you're saying if there's a change of team of a pitcher, it takes a little longer to get used to his new situation.
Yeah, because
now,
you're used to someone calling your game.
If he goes to the other league, though, it's an advantage because the hitters aren't familiar with
Never
him.
seen him.
Right.
And that's the case with Detroit. But fortunately, it's not Anibal Sanchez that's pitching in this one. The reason I really like him is I'm going to tell you this. Even though Lowe is only an 8-8 pitcher, the guy gets ground balls. He doesn't he gives up 11, 12 hits a game, but all of them are ground balls. And Detroit's one of those teams that has no speed, 29th in stolen bases. So here's a team with no speed at all. I really think they're going to have trouble getting guys on. And against Cleveland, there's a reason the Tribe is 5-1 against them this season. So they're confident. And this is the whole season for Cleveland right now.
So let's talk about this, because I was listening to some content yesterday, and it was a guy, Ben Eckstein, who's going to be doing a little more with pregame, and he was talking about how he's a big fan of the last three with a pitcher, current form.
Sure.
But to me, the first thing I'm thinking is when someone's 3-0 at Mile High Stadium or 3-0 against left-handed pitchers, my first thought is, that's such a small sample size, it doesn't matter. So how do you balance that in baseball when it comes to, you're saying they're 5-1? Statistically, it probably doesn't mean a lot. Do you look at it on a case-by-case basis to say, well, there's something about these teams that I speculate would it be an advantage to one, and now I'm seeing it. So yeah, it's 5 out of 6, which in pure math doesn't mean much, but since it affirms a concept you already have, is that the time where you take the 5-1 type stuff seriously, or do you always take it seriously?
No, I agree with you with sample size. I mean, So how do you? You mentioned 5-1. What does it mean to you? In this situation, I think Cleveland has Detroit's number this year, and here's why the situation. This team plays great defense. They're 6th in errors. And when you get a team that plays great defense like Cleveland does, and you get a ground ball pitchers, they got a lot of ground ball pitchers on that team, and you have a team like Detroit without power, 18th in home runs, who's going to put the ball on the ground, I just think that gives Cleveland such a huge advantage.
Okay, so now this makes sense to me. So what I'm hearing you say is there's a fundamental reason you think Cleveland has an advantage over Detroit. You thought that even once you understood the nature of these teams, you thought that. Now they've played 6 games and 5 times you were right. 5-1 by itself doesn't tell you much,
right.
But when it affirms something that you already believe, it's just icing on the cake for you. Now it's not just logic, but it's also some data.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, give us the official pick.
Bottom line, I like Cleveland. I think you're going to be able to get Cleveland as a dog. And this total is going to offer some value too. Because of Scherzer, the total is going to be a little low. I think we're going to see some runs scored here. I made my line 10, and I think it may come out at 9. And we know 9 is such a key number. If that's the case, I'd go over with Cleveland as well.
And 9, and this, a lot of people, this is basic, but we got a lot of newbie watchers, is because when there's a tie game, if it's 4-4, you're always going to get to 9. So 5. Not so much 7, 9, and 11
exactly.
Are the key numbers because of that.
Correct.
Okay, guys. Now some of you might be saying, "How did VR get RJ out for a baseball game?" And I tell you, it was
it wasn't the peanuts.
He promised to buy me dinner, so that was one. But number 2, literally in the next 2 weeks, we are going to be launching our brand new studio, and it is going to be 3 levels better than this. We're super excited. We're going to be having so many more videos that are, quite frankly, so much better visual quality, and hopefully the content improves even a little bit.
For sure, for sure.
So we'll be right, but we got another game today?
Yes, we do. We got 2 more games to go.
2 more games.
Next we're going to go Dodgers St. Louis. Huge game.
Dodgers St. Louis. You can watch it all at pregame.tv.